Hey Moska, how are you doing?
Hey, lovely Bhavna. I'm doing well. What about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, thank you so much for joining our Global Ambassadors Program session today. This is me, Bhavna, the founder of the International Council on Human Rights, Peace, and Politics. And I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our audience. And I would also like to thank you for taking out time to speak with us today. It is an immense honor that we have you today for our session. And I am very positive it's going to be really fun and very exciting. So I'm really glad that I could make it for today. And I just look forward to listening to everything that you have to tell us today. So I'd like to give you this moment to please introduce yourself to our audience, to everyone who will be watching this session today.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Bhavna, too, for inviting me today. So this is Moska Ahmadzai, a woman from Afghanistan, and I'm currently living here. And I'm studying at the American University of Afghanistan. And I'm so glad to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Moska. It's been really a pleasure to, to make acquaintance with you over these past few months. And you're an amazing young lady. You're doing great at whatever you're doing, and I think it's really fun. So, Moska, I mean, we're really excited because you were the first person from Afghanistan who is joining our Global Ambassadors program, and since our council believes in creating a very equitable representation, especially from the global south, I think it's also very eminent that we have, diversity, especially from our own region, right? We've had a lot of speakers. I think we recently concluded a session with this amazing young lady from Italy. So we also have a global north representation, but the council specifically, and it hopes, and I think one of its major objectives are to work in the realm of global south. So of course we work in the realms of human rights, peace, and politics, but I think it's also very much, I think it's of utmost importance that we also give this platform to young leaders like yourself from the global south, right? Because it's not just important to advocate for something, but I think it's also much more important to give that international platform to young leaders from all of the countries in the global south to, come up, speak about what's happening, and of course, then take the other step of advocating by associating with us, right? So I think it's really amazing that you accepted our invite for today, and we'd love to know about your thoughts. So I think we can start off with a little, fun kind of a way. We'd love to know about your experiences in your university, since I think it's a very culturally diverse experience that you're taking as of now. I mean, being in Afghanistan, studying in an American university, I think it's really amazing, and I'm sure it must be exciting. So I, first of all, would really love to know your experiences while studying there, of course. And we all have been hearing about, I mean, since over these past few years, about how difficult it is for young women like yourself to attend universities and, of course, pursue education. So I would love to know about your experiences and also of your fellow young women. Uh, if you've come across some diverse experiences, and do you think, is there any differences maybe on the societal level that, some, particularly some women get access easily, but some other might not? Is it something like that? Or like, what are some difficulties you might be facing? And how's your journey so far in your university?
Yeah, first off, I would like to say that I'm also so proud to be here. Thank you once again for inviting me. So, talking of the university that I'm studying, so I should say that, I was in 10th grade, like I was at school and, the government collapsed. But, thanks to the American University of Afghanistan, like they launched a program called TTS, or Transition to Success, like where high school students such as me could apply to universities, and regardless of their background. But I think that the women and the girls who are really good at English, because they take a Duolingo proficiency test, and only the women who know English, right, they
Yeah.
can apply. But at the American University of Afghanistan, like there are lots of opportunities for girls, and like that they can apply. And there are also like online universities for girls who have already finished their schools but couldn't continue their universities due to, governmental problems or, you know, so that is why they can, study online at the American University with teachers, from diverse perspectives and from different regions.
Wow, that's really wonderful. I think it's a very innovative program, I must say. So, Moska, is it like, a transition to normal kind of a university system, or are there some local changes that might have occurred with the unexceptional circumstances?
Yeah, so like the circumstances right now in Afghanistan is so, like I should say in a chaos. But like there are lots of universities and online universities and people who advocate for rights and especially for girls in Afghanistan. And they've created so many programs over the past years for girls to continue their education. It's just a way to continue their education. And it's like their woman online university where women can apply, and so many other online universities and platforms where women can apply.
Yeah.
But still, like there are some, this feeling of, being marginalized and societal norms that kind of kind of is a barrier to their education. But still, I believe that like mostly and most Afghan girls are continuing their educations, and there is that hope that I feel. I feel that everybody also has this feeling of the bright future, this, and bright and positive mindset that all Afghan women have. And I really am proud of this.
Absolutely, Moska, because I'll be reiterating it again. I've known you since the past few months. You are just an amazing woman. And the way you've grown yourself, the way you've learned, about everything apart from just the theoretical knowledge coming from a university is just exceptional. You're doing really great. And I think one of the most beautiful qualities of you and other women like yourself is the resilience, right? So I think it's very pretty and it's very beautiful in itself. So, Moska, I'm just a bit curious, because of course, it's always a yin and yang. If there's negatives, there's also some positives to every coin, right? Two sides of the coin. So I'm just curious because, of course, the kind of media and literature that we're exposed to, all of us, especially us being in India and every other country, it's kind of, it's very controlled. It's sometimes we're also we also come across a lot of misrepresentation, and we're prone to like wrong narratives about certain countries, especially from the global south, right? I can attest to it because, of course, we have also faced this thing, like the kind of representations of India, especially on international media or international literature. It's very skewed, right? It's very kind of misrepresented. It's very limited, and it's also very restricted. So is there something like that of Afghanistan as well? Would you want to tell us, like, the kind of literature that we're kind of exposed to about literature, the Taliban rule, do you think everything about it is true, or are there some positives about it as well, which is not somehow exposed to us? Or do you think that the literature which is going out of Afghanistan, which is kind of the only source of information for us, but today we have a wonderful source like yourself, so we'd like to also ask this because, of course, all the viewers of this session would love to know about, whether or not we're exposed to the right kind of information about Taliban rule as of now in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so talking of Taliban rule and government in Afghanistan is a tough question. But
I understand.
basically, yeah, basically, I think that the stuff and everything that is said about the education rule in Afghanistan, I think all of them are true because, I faced that, the restrictions and deprivation of education, for certain people and especially for women and girls in Afghanistan. I think that I haven't read or seen anything that, about education, especially and specifically, that be wrong in social media. And mostly the people and advocates of women rights and, or international advocates, they post stuff about the education quality right now in Afghanistan. But apart from that, like speaking of infrastructures that, Taliban are really, really, working on it, like the roads, especially like because in the previous government, like it is so believed that it was so corrupted, and I do agree with this. Like in the previous government, like those who were with powers, they could
Yeah.
do everything, and so much chaos and corruption and money on the table and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the thing that has also improved is the security. Like they're not bombardings everywhere. On the previous government, like we couldn't even go to hospitals because, there might have been some kind of bombardings
Yeah.
there, or maybe we could, we didn't want to jeopardize our lives there. So the like two positive things about the Taliban rule that most people in Afghanistan are also happy with is the infrastructure that they are really strictly working on,
Yeah.
and also the security, and especially the physical security of people in Afghanistan.
Absolutely, that's like a wonderful thing to know, Moska, because as I'll again say that because the kind of literature that we're exposed to about Afghanistan and about Taliban rule, it's just limited to one thing, which is about how Taliban has been just dismantling every system. But I'm sure, I mean, because we hear like a lot of things, but then social media, of course, always might not be correct, right? There are some biases to it because, of course, personal prejudices come into being there. So I think it's wonderful about learning all of these things from you, especially. I mean, it's really great. So another thing, Mosca, because, I completely agree with you that how local people might, I mean, like resonate more with the Taliban rule at some point with some places, especially because I think it's, kind of local. And I think there's this, affinity that people have with the local people that, they think that they resonate with them more as compared to the previous governments, which was a direct foreign intervention in the land, right? So is there
Yeah.
something of that feeling which is growing in Afghanistan that, okay, I mean, the previous governments were still, I mean, even if they might have done something right, they were still foreign. I'm not saying they did, they completely did not. I'm just saying that, even if they might have, there would still be this alienation from that because, it's after all, it's a foreign rule, right? It's a
Yeah.
foreign intervention. And I'll not be afraid to call it a foreign occupation instead. And now I think it's, I mean, you have a rule which is a centralized authority made of local people that I think, I mean, you might resonate with more. So is it something of that sort happening in Afghanistan? Or, I mean, I'm not thinking in the right direction here.
Yeah. So local people, like specifically speaking of local people, and like there are lots of Afghans who are so happy that that America got out of Afghanistan, and they say that like
Yeah,
we don't want America to be in Afghanistan and to control things, right?
yeah,
But like though there are like lots of I'm saying the norms right now in this government too, but it's just that, as you said, the occupation of a foreign government was something that was really disliked by, uh, like that, a country that also does not resonate with the religion of, Afghanistan, and the way, like, like there were culture and societal norms growing up too. And I think that Taliban, because they are, as you said, the local people, and many people are so happy that and many people are also saying that they're really showcasing the real culture of Afghanistan, and this is like especially in the rural parts of Afghanistan. Many
yeah.
people are so happy with them, and especially the Pashtuns and of other tribes too.
That sounds amazing. That sounds really interesting. I think this is a topic we can go on and on and on about. But I'm particularly interested in, I mean, discussing with you about that foreign intervention, especially by the United States. So, so Mosca, I read this amazing, amazing paper, and we discussed it at great length. Remember in our course, so we discussed about it there as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's this paper by Mariam Khalid, and she goes about saying that the United States intervention in Afghanistan that particularly played a very important role with women. Like, for example, so Khalid argues that United States, and this was an official statement by the United States officials when they said that the removal of, this, they called it an oppressive clothing, which is a proper Islamic clothing, so that the removal of burqas of women was linked to their liberation. So that somehow, gives us this viewpoint that, of course, I mean, what the United States were trying to achieve, particularly with respect to women, was that, I mean, changes in clothing or removal of layers of clothing would be linked to their freedom. So what do you think about this perception? I mean, have you actually, felt it? I mean, have you seen this around after speaking with fellow young women from Afghanistan? And do you think, I mean, what's actually the root of it?
Yeah, so personally speaking, I'm so happy that, the Taliban are so strict with hijab because, personally speaking, as a Muslim, I'm so
Yeah,
proud of my hijab. And I think that as a Muslim, I shouldn't have any problem with the look that I have, and especially with the hijab that we, like the scarf that we put over our hair.
yeah,
And I think everybody should be proud of it. And I think that really freedom shouldn't be related to clothes, like if I like, and especially to knowledge and also the freedom, like if I wear hijab. And like I just was watching the speech that said that, when a girl is born in Afghanistan, then she's forced to wear the hijab. Then I would really disagree with this, because we're not forced to wear hijabs. This is rather our identities, because in a garden of world, there are lots of different flowers,
yeah.
so with different colors, that I believe each and every one of them should be respected, rather than intervening them and making them to change, right? But still,
Beautiful,
I
Monica.
yeah, I really believe that hijab doesn't mean that there is the oppression, right? And
Of
especially
course.
talking of the government that Taliban are ruling right now. So I would agree with the hijab rule that they have it, and I think this is exactly what is in our religion. But like, I think they're exceeding the rules, and they're just depriving the right of education. Then if the right is deprived, and I don't think I would ever link it to my religion, or especially to Islam. And yeah, this is really my take on the way I look, and the way, and what I wear.
We both speak the same language, Moska, and we both have the same emotions on this because I have been very, very critical of, especially, like I've read a lot and I've thought a lot about this foreign occupation. I'll not just call it intervention, it's an occupation instead. And, how, I mean, so US has, I think, always had this history of creating narratives that, suited their own objectives. And of course, I mean, this was just one of them. So I also think there's no base to it. But of course, the global north does what the global north does. So we can't go into that much. So I think it was lovely discussing that. Now, Oscar, I also have another interesting thing that I would like to know from you. I'm just so excited that we're having this conversation. I think it's really lovely to know the local perspective. I think it's much more important rather than just reading some official statements or maybe, going through some
Yeah.
reports. Or, because I think for one, they lack the local perspective. And I think true history, true culture lies in the local level, right? And that's how you get to know about things in a much nuanced way. So, Moska, there's one thing which is also very rampant in India. And I mean, all women in India have at some point of their life, at some point of time, have faced that, which is patriarchy. So we call patriarchy as a root cause of, I mean, it's kind of like shackles in every woman's legs. Like some might experience it in a very extreme degree, but some might not experience it that much. But there are a lot of variations in patriarchy when we study it in the Indian context. We have neo-patriarchy, wherein women, the elder women, start oppressing the younger women because they're accustomed to that, right? That women should be controlled. Women should be restricted in a traditional family household, in a traditional family structure. So we see patriarchy is also rampant in India, not very much in the urban areas, not very much in the metropolitan cities. Like where I and Anshika come from, we don't see it very much in our lives. But I mean, of course, as you know, India is such a large country with so many states and so many decentralized local systems as well. But it's much more rampant in other parts of India, which is like a strict, kind of control by the eldest male member in a traditional family structure. So, do you think Moscow patriarchy in this form also exists in Afghanistan, or do you think it exists in a different form? And and also, what do you think have the Taliban rule might have a role to play in this? Do you think patriarchy was much more rampant before than now, or maybe do you think it's much more rampant now? And like in what form? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so talking of patriarchy, actually, it definitely exists, and yeah, specifically in rural parts. Like if I compare an urban city in Afghanistan, like Kabul, to a rural part in Kandahar, then I would say that I really have come to a different country, because what people believe in is completely different, and I think that is really good that people are getting uh, more positive thoughts on this. But the thing that this like older or older women in Afghanistan believe is just that they marry off, like in many cases, but especially like when they marry off their daughters in really really low ages. That I myself also kind of worked on a research paper about it. And
Yeah,
like they believe that girls, even in the previous government, that they shouldn't get education, and the primary aim and the goal that a woman should exist is to work and do the chores and wash the dishes and then get married, and this is it. But I think that if a community, they want strong genes, and strong man as well, and strong generation, they should really work for the education of their daughters and the women and the girls in their society. Because even like one woman, like controls like the whole family and the whole society. And
yeah.
I think that, yeah, it really exists in many forms in Afghanistan, and especially the education and the like diverse thoughts. Afghanistan is also like a multi-tribe, I should say, country with so
Yeah.
many thoughts and so many religions. I mean, yeah, like mostly and Islam, but different thoughts. And
Of course.
yeah,
It
and
is
Afghanistan.
definitely a melting pot of cultures, and I've read a lot about it, and I'm particularly interested in Kandahar's history. I mean, it's such a beautiful cultural place. I mean, you see it had like layers and layers of, so many dynasties coming up, and I mean, of course, it has been kind of, this point of contention between so many different empires, but then it has, this cultural essence of it, which gives you kind of this viewpoint of entire Afghanistan of how culturally diverse it is, right? And of course,
Yeah.
again, now, I mean, we come back to these misrepresentations of, I mean, in media and literature about how countries like Afghanistan and India are projected, right? It's just always skewed. It's just always limited of how they're projected. I mean, it's just kind of, what the Western world does to favor their own narratives and objectives, but we always come back to that. So, Moska, I'm also particularly interested in knowing like, would you like also love to tell us about other cultural or social norms that might be very local or native to Afghanistan, or maybe even native to the place that you live in? Because I mean, as in India, when we talk about our place, every region has their own cultural traditions, has their own, I mean, customs, has their own social norms, and patriarchy is like one of them. So, would you also want to tell us more about something on those lines, about any particular thing that we might not know about?
Yeah, so in Afghanistan, like as I mentioned before, like there are diverse people, like especially like from diverse ethnicities, that like their beliefs are so much different than each and every one of us, right? So like if like the like misinterpretation of Afghanistan, I would say, is that, you know, like when you look at media, like when I look at media, I feel so sad about about Afghanistan, but like I see that, like I hear the things that I've never even, you know, heard in Afghanistan. It's just
Yeah,
that uh mostly what is represented is, you know, the uh all the, you know, marginalized people everywhere, and the people, like how uh, uneducated they are,
yeah,
and how there is the discrimination, and you know that there's no improvement, and you know
yeah,
that they do exist in a level, right? But there are
yeah,
lots of beauties in Afghanistan, especially like it's a really good place and in a country to tour, right? And you know, as I said that in previous government, like I couldn't go to many provinces in Afghanistan due to security reasons, right? But
yeah,
and like in this government, like luckily I could go to many provinces and see the beauty of, you know, and like diverse beauties, and also the statues of Bamyan that are so beautiful, and every part of Afghanistan has its own special and unique beauty that would want you to go. And especially that Afghan people are so hospitable, like to everyone, like
yeah.
everyone they meet, and they're so good to them, and yeah, they're so hospitable that nobody talks about it today, uh and like in media, and also about the beautiful culture that Afghanistan has. And yeah, I think that there are lots of interpretations in media that shouldn't be ignored, and that should be talked about on and on.
Absolutely, Moska. I completely agree. And Moska, so I read about this very interesting. I don't know if I'll be pronouncing that term correct. It's called Kane Bakt, I guess, which somehow means luck house. It's a Dari word, right? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I would love to know if you have something to tell us about it. I was quite interested in this term when I heard it.
Yeah, actually, this is actually so funny too. But yeah, it is uh like I would pronounce it what people call, especially in rural parts, but it's also in urban cities, that they call it Khani Bakht. It means that if I really
Okay.
translate it, luck house. Like I am really critic about it, because I see how, you know, unintentionally and subconsciously people are thinking of just you know, marrying off their daughters in a way, you know. So it means that, and I was just thinking that why would we call, you know, a husband's house Khani Bakht, and not universities and, you know, schools and colleges Khani Bakht, or that luck house, right, for girls? Because I think the real luck that that girls are prone to, and that should be thought of, are the education. But is that, you know, like when a girl is just, you know, teenage,
Yeah.
and you know, they're like, people like, in most parents, they just think of marrying her off, because just to send him or send her to the luck house, right? Just so ridiculous that I feel it's really redundantly used, this
Exactly.
term of
Yeah.
Khane Bakht, that I really disagree with. I wish we could approve these terms, because such terms just narrate the wrong image of
Exactly.
our society.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is why I was just thinking of, I don't think people talk about it much, but I was just thinking, because I really talk about the you know, the lacks that we have, and how we're subconsciously, you know, you know, like canceling and making these obstacles of to education. And this is like mostly used because they don't feel like there are other things about the luck of a girl aside, like other than the husband's how that should be thought of. Like, and that is why
Okay.
most people, I want to say, that they're not thinking of the education and any other thing in the age of a girl. And
Yeah,
the thing is the luck house, so the girl should go there one day, right? So yeah, that is why I think most people are inconsiderate of many other things that they
yeah,
should be considerate.
exactly. I think Mosca, in that sense, if it means luck house, I think a girl's mind should also be a luck house because I think that's where the growth happens. And I think education more of becomes an intergenerational phenomenon, right? So, like, if the girl is able to think freely, if the girl is able to analyze things freely, I think it's her luck house. That's where she grows.
Yeah.
That's where, she evolves. So, thank you. It's been amazing. So, Mosca, we are just left with 3 minutes, under 3 minutes for the meeting. I just have three very, very, very short, amazing, curious questions to ask, and I would love to know your thoughts on that. So,
Yeah, sure.
firstly, do you think is there also you have to answer under 10 seconds? I'm so sorry for that. So,
Okay.
Mosca, would you like to tell us something which is very unusual about Afghan weddings? Fun, unusual, kind of like an interesting thing for us to know.
So, oh my God. So Afghan weddings are so diverse and it really depends, but it's just that in Afghan weddings, the thing that is not practiced is just that male and woman are never in the same saloon. And yeah, I think this is something that is different.
Okay, and is there something which is deeply rooted in the Afghan culture that should be adopted on the international scale when with respect to international relations? Do you think there's something which is so local to the Afghan culture, or maybe a local practice that you think would be very successful and if implemented on an international scale?
Yeah, in Afghanistan, people are really respected to old people, like, in Western countries, like I haven't gone there, but when you see like everybody has the right, especially when they go to like a bus, right? So in Afghanistan, if, there's a very, very specific respect to older people, right?
Okay.
And the age and also to the children. So if a person is seated in a bus and he or she sees an older person, so they stand up and yeah, give their seat to an older person. That I really love this.
So you think that this warmth and consideration of age should be adopted in foreign diplomacy as well?
Yeah, I do believe. I think it's a really good practice, and also it also is applied to women because
Great.
like if men are seated, then they give their place to women, especially if they're pregnant,
Wonderful.
and I
I
really
think
love
I
it.
think it's a beautiful, beautiful conclusion to our talk today, Mosca. Thank you so much. I'd like to heartfully give you a big, big thanks. And thank you so much. It's been a fun, amazing conversation. I just wish it never ended, but it did. And thank you so much, Mosca. It has been amazing. And we'll for sure arrange a follow-up session with you. I mean, there is so much we have to talk about, but quickly, under 10 seconds, I mean, that's the time we have left. Would you want to say something about today?
Yeah, I surely will. Thank you so much, Bhavna and Anshu, for this beautiful